Kent catching fire, Doha's back-to-back phenomenon, and a potential dream jump-off coming up this weekend in WEF. Welcome to Horse Bytes, your 5 in 10 5-star show jumping, all in just 10 minutes. The Globals kicked off in Doha this week with the first of 15 legs with the team and individual championships between the GCL and the LGCT. As someone who competed on that tour for years, I'm always excited to see the new lineups, but when they were announced this year, I was a bit shocked. The teams look surprisingly weak with a lot of inexperienced riders, some amateurs, and tons of names I've never heard of. Sure, there are a bunch of top professionals in the mix, especially Ludger's team, but overall they're missing a lot of notable top players. 6 of the top 10 riders in the world aren't on teams. There's only 1 US rider. Of course, we might see some changes at the midway trade window, but for now, it's not super strong. Plus, a lot of the good riders haven't brought out their top horses. Take, for example, Christian Kukuk stepped up Shah George to jump his first ever meter 60. Michael van der Vleuten used his 3rd string horse and fell off, shockingly, so not a great start. On the other hand, the Iron Dames now powers 2 all-female teams, which started off really strong by both finishing on the podium, clearly showing they are taking it seriously. The playoffs will head back to Prague this year, and I absolutely love that it's a standalone league and the riders are working towards a championships, something our sport sorely lacks, but with such weak lineups, it's looking more like Formula 2. Taking a look at this week's results, it's uncanny to see how many back-to-back victories we are seeing. Between Abdel Said and Bonami taking the LGCT 2 years in a row, and the Cannes Stars winning the GCL again, or Malmberg Janssen in Indiana winning last week, or Gerfried Puck a few weeks before, that's a lot of title retentions that we normally don't see in the sport. More importantly, what about Ken Farrington, who won another Grand Prix in Ocala this week with Tulane? It seems like every week Kent is winning another class. Actually, he won the qualifier too. I can't wait to see if he tries to make it a 3-peat next weekend at the next 5-star in WEF. And I caught up with Carl Cook, who said he's bringing Caracol out. Now that would be an amazing head-to-head in the jump-off. Or what if Richie Vogel brought out United Touch? I'd love to see Greya up against United, 2 totally different types, but both lightning fast. Also, remember, United hasn't lost a jump off, he's been clearing. Anyway, I digress. Back to Kent. He's been super successful recently, and that's because he has a really strong group of horses that he has developed and spent time creating partnerships with. He was quiet for a few years after Useko and Voyeur and Gazelle, but that's the thing about our sport. Lots of ebbs and flows, and Kent did it right. He bought young horses, took his time, and it's now paying off. You can't always be winning in our sport, and I imagine it was super frustrating for him during the lull. But now his comeback is in full gear, and we might be seeing a new world #1 pretty soon. In other news, JJ Toronto, watch out for him. He's the 14-year-old American who won the National Grand Prix in Wellington, beating out 5 Olympians. Wild. It's been a long time since we've seen so much success at that young of an age. Reminds me of Reed Kessler a few years back, although she was like 17, 18 during her reign. I sound like a broken record, but the women really are dominating in recent weeks. The all-female US team won the Nations Cup in Wellington over the ever-strong Irish, who admittedly had an off night. Doha announced a €10 million tour next year with 9 5-stars. It'll be the largest tour of its kind in the region and is a big step forward for Middle Eastern horse sport. Personally, I think they've been better to host one huge event with all that prize money in one class, or build up to a final somehow because it'd be easier to follow. Remember, us humans like culminations in sport. There'd be more prestige too, but either way, it certainly shows growth in our industry. And most people have heard by now Steve Guerdat had emergency back surgery for a hernia. But let's take a look at the implications of that. That means no top 4 rotation in Den Bosch. Who will replace it? Philipp Weishaupt, the silver medalist from the Europeans? Nothing's been announced yet, but that would be my guess. No home World Cup finals in Basel. Plus, the Swiss rely so heavily on him and Martin Fuchs. Will he be ready for the Europeans in July? I imagine he wants to be back to defend his title. And also, with Kent absolutely dominating, Steve's most likely gonna lose his number 2 spot, even with a points freeze for the injury. I'm sure he's been fighting through pain for a while. People don't realize how grueling the sport can be on the body. As I got older, my knees and back killed me. Even without an acute injury, we always worry about horses getting hurt, but we rarely talk about the humans. This is a big setback for Steve, but knowing his determination, he'll be back as soon as possible. And now, some specifics from the LGCT in Doha. Abdel did it again. He led the jump off right from the start. By the third jump, he was already almost a second up on Daniel Deusser's time, doing one less stride from 2 to 3. But hats off to Double D, however. Gangster does not look like an easy horse, nor does he look like the scopiest animal out there, and he has really made that animal into a proper -60 horse. Speaking of ebbs and flows in our sport, Deusser is another rider who hasn't had a top horse for a while and stepped back for a bit to make something of Gangster by sheer riding talent. Riders are so easily forgotten until they come back and make a splash. Gangster would be nothing without Deusser riding him, in my opinion. And Abdul Rahman and Ventago rounded out the podium. This partnership is just great. Ventago is a really amazing horse. Not the quickest, not the lightest, but just a really good animal, and it was their first LGCT podium together. Michael van der Vleuten fell off Daiwis HH unexpectedly. Horse stopped at B of the double. To be honest, not sure why whatsoever. Horse gave no indication he was going to do that, and Michael had no chance of staying on. Usually Michael is so steady, I actually can't remember the last time I saw him fall off. And a few notables are really in dips at the moment, with Emanuele Camilli and Odense Odeveld and Jana Vargers with Dorette both retiring. Maybe there are unknown health issues, or the young success of Odense has led to complacency in the horse as he's matured, or the aging Dorette is just past her peak as she enters her 16th year. Overall, a much quieter week of show jumping despite the record-breaking repeat victories across the world. Let's talk about this week's ratings. With major prize money, but just okay watching, I'm gonna give the first Global of the Year a 7.4 out of 10. With all the repeat victories, are we gonna see a three-peat for Kent and Greya this week at the third 5-star of the season at WEF? Or, with all the recent female domination, will a woman take the top spot for International Women's Day? Stay tuned to all of our socials. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow along all the action as it unfolds here on Horse Bytes, your 5 and 10 5-star show jumping, all in just 10 minutes.